is an administration that claims to be so tough on crime, slashing funding to programs that reduce crime? Let's break that down. Hi, I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and this is The Breakdown. If you enjoy the content on this channel, don't keep us a secret. Like, comment, subscribe, and tell a friend. So this is one that hits really close to home and is, again, so problematic on so many levels. So this week, the administration has cut hundreds of millions of dollars to combat gun violence and opioid addiction. Many grassroots organizations and even larger organizations around the country rely on federal grants to be able to do all kinds of work, including violence interruption work, giving services and resources to survivors of crime, to do different programs to prevent crime, especially with children and kids that are at risk, all of that. Well, they slashed all of it. The feds slashed all of it. The DOJ sent an email to more than 350 organizations telling them that the funding that they had been promised, the funding that they have been using to help our communities has been terminated. Basically, the DOJ says they're taking the money back because this work no longer effectuates department priorities. So allegedly, what the department intends to focus on are more directly supporting certain law enforcement operations, combating violent crime, protecting American children, and supporting American victims of trafficking and sexual assault, and better coordinating law enforcement efforts at all levels of government. Okay, now if you're saying you want to combat violent crime, wouldn't a violence interruption program that reduces homicides count towards that? If you're saying you want to help victims of sexual assault, wouldn't you want to fund the programs that give them support so that they're able to actually testify in court, actually be able to meaningfully put their assailant behind bars? Logic much? Kind of missing. Let me give you some examples of the programs that are being affected. You have the National Center for Victims of Crime. They lost 3 grants. One of those grants includes a victims hotline, which the Department of Justice had been funding for 10 years. As a result of this cut, that hotline shut down last Friday. They were serving over 16,000 people a year. And those are victims. Remember, National Center for Victims of Crime. If you're a victim of crime, you would normally call that hotline to get access to local resources. Where should you go? What should you do? How should you navigate the process of filing charges and kind of getting through what is possibly the worst day of your life? That hotline and that funding is gone. Yeah. Now, keep in mind, yes, okay, the hotline's being shut down, but that also means the people that staff the hotline are now out of a job. So now you're contributing to unemployment. So now, not only is this administration going to contribute to the rise in violence, they're also going to contribute to a rise in unemployment. Yeah, America's sounding real great right now. Yeah, going right according to plan. So these cuts came at the worst possible time because this is literally the middle of the grant cycle. So every organization each fiscal year looks at, okay, this is how much money we have from our donors. This is how much money we have in federal grants. Now we will figure out what programs we're going to do, how we're going to do staffing, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when you do this in the middle of the grant cycle, folks already have been hired and have already been doing the work. So now you're throwing everything into chaos and you're going to have to fire or lay people off. So that's going to be disaster, not only for the programs that got cut, but for the remaining programs, because again, you have to scramble and kind of reallocate resources, reallocate staff, which again takes these organizations' eye off the ball in terms of violence reduction and the key work that they do. So a lot of this came through the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which happened under the Biden administration. And this act, what basically has gotten this whole stream of federal funds and disseminated out to different groups, it's been credited with the recent drop in homicides throughout the U.S. And since its creation, more than $300 million have been given to groups that are led by people who live in areas where there's a high amount of shootings and violence. And so even though it's only a tiny amount of all the money that the feds give out as a general premise, this is all money that supports the reduction of homicides in the US. So let me give you another program. This one is out of Baltimore. This is called the Center of Hope. They're an organization that does prevention and healing services for kids who have been victims of or witnesses to gun violence. That group lost $1.2 million, and that will directly impact 7 staff members who work directly with people impacted by violence. This was money that was going to train staff and prevent shootings that start off on social media and end up in the streets. Because remember, kids will beef on social media, say, nasty things to each other, and next thing you know, Twitter fingers turn to trigger fingers, right? And these kids go from beefing on socials to now fighting in the streets, shooting each other, et cetera, et cetera. So these types of groups are instrumental in seeing, oh, wait, there's a beef rising up here on social media. Let's go see if we can go get to these kids and dissolve the situation so it doesn't escalate to the point where somebody gets hurt or killed. And remember, too, bullets don't discriminate. So even though kids may be trying to shoot each other, that bullet can miss and hit grandma that's just sitting in her house or a baby that's in their crib. These are the things that these programs seek to prevent and had been doing a good job. Now, continuing on the Center of Hope, they run 6 of Baltimore's 10 safe street sites. So they operate in pockets of Baltimore that have the most shootings. So between 2023 and 2024, 4 of the sites run by Center of Hope saw zero homicides, 0. And in that same time frame, the number of homicides throughout the city of Baltimore decreased by 34%. And this comes from Mayor Brandon Scott's office. So who wins in this situation? Certainly not the victims. Certainly not the community. I guess defendants get to go away scot-free and get to murder people, right? So all this foolishness about, oh, yeah, we want to prosecute violent criminals, you're not giving prosecutors the resources to do that. I mean, if the goal is just, oh, yeah, we're going to give police departments more money to be able to buy more weapons and more, armored tanks, all right, I guess if that's your game. But again, that does not address the root cause of crime. And all of those resources, yeah, okay, you can do whatever and arrest all these people. But if there's no case to move forward with, because the prosecutors don't have victims and witnesses because they're too afraid to come forward or they don't have the resources they need, then what? Those cases are going to get dropped. And those people are going to be right back out on the streets. And then you're going to have even more crime. So tell me how, make that make sense for me, please, because I'm at a loss here. Well, stay tuned. I will keep y'all posted as more of the ripple effects of this foolishness continue. I'm Melba Pearson, also known as Resident Legal Diva, and this was The Breakdown. If you enjoy the content on this channel, like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, because we are the resistance. Take care.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.